Welcome back. Today we're looking at a really deep dive, an analysis trying to unpack the psychological workings and contradictions of Rob Noerr from Normal America.
Yeah, specifically around his conflicts in the online panelverse.
It's quite exhaustive, so let's jump right in. The first big takeaway seems to be this powerful cognitive dissonance in how he assigns status.
Right. It defines his whole digital world through this stark binary, either absolute loyalty,
Or just open contempt.
the profile calls it the loyalty-contempt paradox.
And it's laid out pretty clearly. You see that extreme loyalty, almost, cult-like, towards Andrew Wilson.
The quotes are strong. I owe 90% of my channel's success to Andrew.
And I will always have Andrew's back, I don't give a fuck, no matter what. Unconditional.
Night and day.
Okay, so the weakness identified in the critique here isn't that it happens, but maybe why it needs to be so extreme.
Exactly. The analysis shows what he's doing, this zero-sum status game tied to Wilson, but doesn't fully flesh out the psychological need for it.
Because it suggests this reliance really limits him intellectually, right? Makes his self-worth totally dependent on this hierarchy he's built.
Spot on. So the suggestion is to dig deeper psychologically. Frame this whole dynamic as like his main way of dealing with professional insecurity.
Ah, okay. So the loyalty to Wilson isn't just friendship.
No, it's more like a foundational identity piece. And the contempt for everyone else, that's the necessary defense mechanism to keep that status propped up.
So the contempt is basically a defense. It's a wall he needs to protect the status he feels he gets from Wilson.
Precisely. Think about it. If the panelverse had any legitimacy in his eyes, his reliance on Wilson for authority wouldn't make sense, and his own status claims might, crumble.
That makes sense. It has to be one or the other.
Yeah, and look at that quote. Zero fucking possibility that if it was Andrew Wilson calling in, he would have been treated the same way as me.
That perfectly shows he thinks he needs Wilson's, proxy status.
For protection, for legitimacy.
And you can trust that directly with how he just dismisses the whole panelverse beneath me. He's using Wilson's warning about the Twitch politics sphere almost as...
Ideological cover?
Right. To create this external enemy he can label as inferior. It builds a controlled space where he's guaranteed to be on top.
It simplifies everything for him. You're either with the source of my success, or you're part of this group I have to reject.
And the psychological payoff is huge, right? It gives him certainty in what's otherwise a really chaotic online space.
Okay, building on that idea of control, let's move to his actual behavior in these debates. The profile highlights how he uses non-engagement.
Yeah, things like silence, muting, even performative stuff.
To manipulate the narrative and protect his image when things get messy. The critique calls this the weaponization of non-engagement.
And this is fascinating because he keeps saying he wants serious debates, hates the spurfest, as he calls it. But the second things don't go his way,
He switches to these really performative non-debate tactics.
like reading the ShamWow commercial or just muting the whole stream.
Exactly. The source material kind of frames it as frustration, but does that capture it? It feels more deliberate.
So the weakness noted here is maybe framing it just as frustration over broken rules. That might be missing the calculation involved.
That's the suggestion. Sharpen the analysis. Classify these actions explicitly as tools of control, not just emotional reactions. We need to figure out what the real win is for him when he does this.
Because the win isn't necessarily winning the argument anymore.
No, it's controlling the terms. Or, maybe more importantly, getting out without looking like he rage quit.
Ah, avoiding the rage quit label. That's key online.
Totally. He's shifting the goalposts. He even says it. I'm going to refuse to speak while people interrupt me. Cool, that's fine, awesome. That means I get to talk more, right?
That's not frustration. That's a tactic. He's pivoting away from substance.
Into this performative silence to claim the moral or intellectual high ground. It's not defeat, it's an assertion of superiority.
That's a much stronger angle. We need those concrete examples then to show that shift. From debater to, performance artist.
Okay, so take the ShamWow commercial reading. His justification for it. He says he's joking around because they're going to treat it like a fucking joke.
So he preemptively degrades the whole thing.
to justify his own exit through theatrics. He's calculated that if he can't win by the rules he prefers, he'll win by showing the whole game is beneath him.
And the muting confirms that, especially when he frames it as giving himself more airtime with his audience.
Right. I'll keep my picture there and I'll talk to my audience. Everybody's a winner. He controls the exit narrative for his own viewers.
Ensuring he looks, I don't know, mature or maybe persecuted at worst.
Yeah. It shows a really sophisticated grasp of online performance. If you can't control the argument, control how your audience sees your reaction to the argument.
That focus on narrative leads perfectly into the third major point from the critique.
The victim-hero complex?
Exactly. The analysis suggests his whole engagement operates under this strategy where he reframes everything, his participation, his frustration, as this big moral struggle.
Turning himself into the victim-hero fighting against this, morally bankrupt collective.
Yeah, and the critique points out a weakness here. The profile sets up his high road persona, trying to be humble, hating the Jerry Springer vibe.
Against how supposedly immature the panel verse is. Sarah's cringe, Dusty's trolling, etc.
But that framing kind of glosses over his own behavior, doesn't it?
Completely. It overlooks his own interruptions, insulting the moderator, really publicly.
The explicit, fuck them, they're beneath me. That's hardly taking the high road.
Not at all. So this constant framing of himself as the target, the trolls grouping up against you because you're successful, it primarily serves to excuse his own bad behavior.
It protects his image when the debate falls apart. He can't just admit he lost control or failed. He has to position himself as being besieged by inferiors.
I wonder, does the submitted analysis really connect the dots clearly enough between maintaining this victim narrative and the actual concrete payoff he gets from it?
Ah, good point. Is the benefit fully explored?
That seems to be the area needing reinforcement. The suggestion is to really dissect that payoff. How does this framework help him?
Okay, so it validates his success, the idea that people only attack him because he's doing well, makes envy the proof.
Right. It also justifies cutting ties completely. They're beneath me, not worth my time. Easy exit.
But maybe the most crucial payoff.
Is it? Insulates him from any accountability for his own unprofessional conduct? He can always claim he was just driven to it by everyone else's chaos.
It turns his own actions into proof of their corruption, not his failing. That's quite a twist.
We need the starkest example of that cognitive dissonance.
How about contrasting his claims about honesty and serious debate with those really aggressive insults towards the moderator?
Perfect. Going from these lofty principles straight to, she's a fucking little clique. She thinks she's running a little clique. She's a terrible fucking moderator. She fucking sucks.
Wow. Yeah.
The victim narrative almost requires that level of contrast. His supposed purity versus their deep corruption to make such an outburst seem justified, at least to his audience.
And then there's that moment later noted in the analysis where he kind of backtracks.
The I'm joking, I'm perfectly fine bit?
Yeah. Doesn't that just highlight how strategic the initial emotional display was? He's actively managing perceptions?
Absolutely. It confirms the performance aspect. He's curating his emotional state for the audience throughout, reinforcing that victim-hero framework.
It really is a masterclass in rhetorical control, ensuring that even if he loses the argument, his audience sees him as the morally superior one.
Definitely a compelling dissection in the source material. It gets into the psychological warfare of it all.
Okay, so let's recap the main suggestions for strengthening this profile even further. 3 core areas.
First, on the loyalty-contempt paradox, don't just state it. Really dig into the psychological need behind it. Link it directly to managing insecurity and cementing status through Wilson.
Got it. Deeper on the why.
Second, the non-engagement stuff, the ShamWow, the muting, stop framing it primarily as frustration. Label it clearly for what it is, an aggressive tactic for narrative control, designed to ensure a clean exit, accountability-free.
Define it as a power move, essentially.
Exactly. And third, the victim-hero narrative. The analysis needs to hammer home the payoff.
Show exactly how that framework insulates him from criticism, validates his status through supposed envy, and justifies his own escalations.
Make the benefits crystal clear to the reader.
Right, so Overall, to really make this psychological expose hit harder, the suggestion is to focus less on just describing the behaviors and more on the underlying need for these specific defense mechanisms.
And analyze how effectively they're packaged and sold to his audience, how personal frustration becomes essentially a content strategy.
Excellent points. We definitely encourage the author to keep refining this profile along these lines and send us the updated version.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing how it develops.